Hi, my name's Mark and I'm going to talk to you about my trip to Tanzania. I began my gap year after finishing my A-levels with the aim of getting into medical school for the next year. Now if you're watching this and considering going on a trip with Gap Medics, it's likely that you may be interested in applying to medicine too. We all know getting into medical school is so competitive nowadays. So I wanted to not only make myself stand out from other applicants, but also gain experience in a different healthcare environment, having already had experience here back home in the UK. I told Gap Medics exactly what kind of things I wanted to get out of my trip, and they advised me on the best place to go. From the get-go, they were so helpful with helping me plan and organise my trip. They advised me on the best place to get my flights and sent me a pack containing lots of info for my journey. One of the things I loved about Gap Medics is that they sorted out so much stuff like the residence permit and the placement, so that was a bunch of stuff that I didn't have to worry about. My actual journey wasn't as bad as I thought. I took 2 flights connecting in Dubai until I reached Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, where I was greeted by the project manager at the airport. Then followed the bus journey from Dar es Salaam to Iringa, where the Gap Medics house is based. The bus journey was an experience to say the least. If you like African music, then you'll love the bus, or the Sumri as they call it. I actually arrived on the same day as another guy called Tom, so I had some company, which was great. As soon as we arrived at the house, we were greeted with a very warm welcome from all the housemates. It was definitely easy to settle in no time. On our first night, they took us to Gangalonga Rock, which is basically a massive rock you can climb up and get an incredible view of all of Iringa. Watching the sunset, or even the sunrise if you're up early enough for it, on top of Gangalonga is something you must do while you're there. The next day, I went to start my placement in the hospital. With regards to the hospital placement, there are 4 departments you can visit: female ward, pediatrics, obstetrics and gynecology, and surgery. When you plan your trip before you go, you can specify where you want to spend your time, but since I was going for 4 weeks, it made sense to spend a week in each department. If you have never had any hospital experience, or even just some back home, you're in for a shock. I was fortunate to have had some experience back here in the UK, so I could compare, and it was such a stark difference. The most obvious and evident factor is the severe lack of funding and resources. This was reflected in every area of the hospital, from their lack of equipment to shortage of staff. It certainly makes you appreciate what we take for granted back home. Everyone had their own favourite department, but mine was surgery. Because there are fewer restrictions in Tanzania, we were given amazing opportunities to scrub in and assist with operations like C-sections and hernia repairs. I remember standing there holding a uterus in my hands, helping the surgeons suture it back up. It certainly beats standing at the back of an operating theatre just watching, like here in the UK. I also got to observe some pretty amazing cases, like a man who had been bitten by a hippo while fishing. Of course, on the wards, you're bound to see some tropical diseases that are not so common here, such as malaria. Also, with Iringa having such a high percentage of HIV-positive cases, you'll be able to appreciate how hard it can be for doctors and nurses to work each day with these extra challenges. Everyone has their own memories from the hospital. Every one of us in the house was touched by one case or another. Whether it was the little boy who was severely malnourished, or the young girl fighting for her life with TB, or their mother who had just had a stillbirth. We all have our memories, and if you go, I'm sure you will too. It's hard to explain, but there are some things that can just never be experienced properly unless you go see it for yourself. But on a lighter note, you can't go to Tanzania and not explore the country. My time there gave me an incredible opportunity to see new sights and experience new places. On the first weekend, a group of us in the house decided to organise a safari trip. Mdoy, the project manager in the house, was really helpful with this and planned everything out for us. We were picked up by a 4x4 from the house and driven to Ruaha National Park, about 1.5 hours away. We spent that night in the famous Hilltop Hotel. There's a large hut which overlooks the whole plains, and we had our own little hut further up the mountain with equally spectacular views. Standing on the terrace overlooking everything is the most breathtaking sight ever. One thing that really grabs you is how silent it is up there. Absolutely no sound. A big difference to the busy hospital. After a great 3-course dinner, we went to bed for an early 6 AM start the next morning. Alex, our tour guide for the safari, picked us up again in the open-top 4x4 and we set off. We drove around the safari park all day looking at so many amazing animals. We all had our favourites, but the highlight for me were the lions. We'd spent all of our time in the park and had seen basically all the animals, but the lions. We were determined to find them. And then all of a sudden Alex shouts, "Lions!" And we all stand there looking around, thinking, where? They were about half a mile away. How he spotted them, I have no idea. But sure enough, we drove up as close as we could. The park rules say that you must not leave the tracks, but the lions were still too far away to see properly. If the park rangers catch you going off track, you get a considerable fine. But when nobody was around us, Alex took a beeline for the lions. We got so close, within a few meters. It was amazing. Anyways, after all that excitement, we decided to start heading back home. But on the way, we stopped off at a Maasai village, which was so fun. As soon as we got out of the car, all the children ran up to us. They were so excited. One of the women in the village showed us around their little huts. Very basic, really. All the children loved posing for photos. They took all of our cameras from us and ran around taking pictures of each other. One little girl took my SLR and knew exactly how to use it. A complete natural. She took pictures of all of her friends. It was amazing to see. I've uploaded a couple of videos of our time there at the safari and with the Maasai on my YouTube channel. I'll give you the details of those at the end. The next weekend was a bit more chilled. We stayed in Iringa and this gave us some invaluable time to hone our haggling skills and get all our souvenirs. We learned very quickly never to pay the asking price for anything. One girl, who was quite new at the time, immediately agreed to the asking price for a little giraffe. The lady in the shop actually looked shocked that she agreed. She never made that mistake again. Some of us also decided to go to the local church on Sunday, which was fun. We thought we would sit at the back so as not to be noticed, but in the middle of the service we were asked to stand up and introduce ourselves to everyone in the church. That wasn't embarrassing at all. But they were very welcoming. One thing you will notice in Iringa is that almost everyone is so nice and welcoming. You'll never feel out of place or ignored, especially in the hospital. After another exciting week in the hospital, Tom and I decided to take a trip to Kigamboni. It's a beach resort just off Dar es Salaam, and it was between that and Zanzibar, but we heard that they were very similar and Kigamboni was less travelling. We took the long bus to Dar, and Mdoy had organised for us to be picked up by Tadeo, the taxi driver. You will never meet a cooler taxi driver. The resort was so nice though. The sea was beautiful and clear. Definitely not something to miss while you're there. Some people who went before us planned this trip so that they could go to the airport in Dar straight after, instead of having to travel to Iringa again. But this wasn't possible for us with our flights, unfortunately. No big deal, just means we got to take the Sumri again. I've been rambling on for quite a while now, so I should probably wrap this up pretty soon. All I can say is, whether you're wanting to gain some experience in between leaving school and starting med school, or you're on your gap year, it really doesn't matter. Gap Medics will help you make the most of your time. If you want to hear more about my time there, I have a few video blogs on my YouTube channel for you to check out at youtube.com/MaherAbroad. You can send me any questions or anything through there, or you can contact Gap Medics directly by email. Whatever decision you make, I hope you have a fantastic time, and good luck.